Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parents Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today, entitled Cousin Stole My Boyfriend and Still Expects to be Invited to Events. After that, Lady calls me a dirty liar, then spits my tea on me. And after that, am I the jerk for refusing to accept my daughter's relationship with her married older boss? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen doesn't get to steal someone's boyfriend. Like heck I won't! So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Entitled Cousin Stole My Boyfriend and Still Expects to be Invited to Events. My cousin, Lily, and I are the same age, so our moms have always pushed us together. It was fine when we were kids, but as we grew up, we became very different people. Our moms never seemed to get the memo though, and continued to force us together, and this led to a lot of resentment and jealousy between us. When we were both 20, I introduced my boyfriend to our family. He was an engineering student, and my entire family kept praising him for how smart he was, and asked Lily why she couldn't date a guy like him. Her boyfriend at the time was unemployed and not in school. Well, a few months later, he broke up with me because he needed to figure out who he was, only to start dating Lily less than a month later. I was devastated, but due to family pressure, I pretended everything was okay. My ex ended up dropping out of school, and Lily and he got married shortly after. After finishing college, I decided against moving back home and instead went very low contact with my aunt and Lily. We're currently 27, and I have only seen them a few times since. Lily and my ex now have 2 kids together. Early last year, my boyfriend proposed to me. I never introduced him to my extended family, and as far as everyone was concerned, I was happily single this whole time. Obviously, he now had to meet the family, so I decided to host a party at my parents' house. My sister was helping me plan everything, and she mentioned that Lily and my ex were having some problems, and it looked like they were going to get a divorce. I decided against inviting Lily because my ex was not the only relationship of mine she had sabotaged. We ended up having the party and it went great. My fiance got along with my family and everyone seemed to like him. I did ask that no one mention anything to Lily or my aunt, and it seemed like no one did. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, and my parents were hosting a barbecue and invited me and my fiance. My family have since met him a few times, all without Lily being there. And he has become very close to my cousin, who he is helping switch careers into his field. Well, Lily and my aunt came to the barbecue, so I had to introduce them. Lily noticed this wasn't the first time the rest of my family were meeting him and asked one of our other cousins about it. She mentioned the party. My aunt and Lily ended up chewing me and my mom out, saying we were making the family pick sides over an issue that was already over, that my lack of invitation was implying Lily was a homewrecker, that I was petty and insecure. My mom was angry at me because she hadn't realized I was purposely excluding Lily. Lily and my ex are currently separated, and my mom says she now needs her family around her more than ever. She wants me to invite Lily out with my fiance to make up for everything. A part of me does feel guilty, but not enough to invite her out. My sister told me to tell them to buzz off. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Well, what do you think? Should OP stay away from Lily or not? Please let us know. I like Lily. She reminds me of a younger version of myself. Lady calls me a dirty liar, then spits my tea on me. So some backstory. I was an employee at a little yet popular cafe, which we'll call Cafe X, in my rapidly developing town. Unfortunately, I got laid off due to what's going on. Understandable though, it was tiny. I got along well with customers, some of which I know on a first-name basis. The incident occurred at another cafe, Cafe Y, where 2 of my friends work. One of them, Mitsu, is a barista, while the other, Siren, was the manager. Cafe Y is way more popular than my cafe, so more people went there to get their coffee. I had had a couple of screw-ups while I was working that day and was really beating myself up. My manager, who was worried about me, told me to clock out early today and to relax. We all have days like this. Just come back tomorrow with a smile. Honestly, I was annoyed that she didn't trust me to control myself, but she probably did the right thing. Anyways, onto the story now. I was tired and stressed out after being sent home, so I decided to go to Cafe Y in order to grab something and head home. However, I had forgotten Siren and Mitsu were working that day, which was a pleasant surprise. It was the slow period of the day and the 2 were talking together. The moment I walked in, Mitsu joked about how rats in the store are a safety violation. She calls me a rat. It's a long story. I asked Siren for some tea, which she laughed and said sure. Mitsu and I sat down and talked while Siren boiled the water for my favorite blend, green tea with mint. A lady walks in and Mitsu gets up to take her order. As I'm waiting, I noticed that the sugar at the sugar/cream section was low. Wanting to help out my friends, I take the sugar out from the cabinet below, refill it, walk back to my seat, and start playing games on my phone. My first mistake. Obviously, the lady saw me and started ranting. The conversation went a little something like this. Cast. We've got me, Toyokazu. We've got Mitsu. We've got Siren and the entitled woman. Entitled woman scoffs. Wow, how unprofessional of your coworker there, taking out his phone in the middle of his shift. People like him don't deserve to work. Mitsu looks around, confused. Ma'am, I'm the only one here. Can I get you anything else? Entitled woman gives her a look like she's completely stupid. Are you making fun of me? I can clearly see your coworker not working. She points at me. I haven't looked up, but I've been paying attention to the conversation. I speak up. Me. Ma'am, I don't work here. My second mistake. Karen turns to me and walks over to my table. Shut your mouth, you filthy liar. I saw you restock the sugar, and you shouldn't lie to your customers like that. Funny thing about me, when I'm tired and off the clock, I don't take crap from anyone. My general response is either sarcastic or condescendingly witty. Bad habit, I know. I look up at her, locking eyes. Me. Lady, I want you to take a look at the logo on her shirt and tell me if it matches up with the logo on my shirt. She blinks for a minute, looking at my shirt. Then she snaps at me. Don't you talk to me like that, you delinquent. You work here. Now, I demand you get behind the counter and help make my order. I put my phone in my pocket, letting out a sigh. Me. I don't work here. I'm not allowed to go behind the counter. I look at Mitsu, who nods in confirmation. Mitsu. Ma'am, he doesn't work here. She wheels around, pointing directly in Mitsu's face. Don't you cover up for him, you little jerk. I saw you talking just a second ago. You're just trying to bail your friend out. Her first mistake. I immediately get up and walk up to her. Me. Lady, I think you need to apologize to my friend. I'm very protective of my friends, especially people like Mitsu. She can't stand confrontation like this and often would get anxiety from this kind of situation. Entitled woman wheels around to me, now shoving her finger in my face. Is that a threat? Are you threatening a customer? This is unacceptable. I'll have your job. At this point, Siren comes out and places my tea on the counter. I don't know if he's been listening to the conversation or not. He just calls my order number. Immediately, the lady grabs the tea and takes a sip, assuming it's hers. Before I can tell her, she spits it all over me. Karen. What is this? This is not my order. She pointed at Mitsu. You are incompetent. I want to speak to a manager about you and your jerk of a friend. Then she throws it away, still screeching. Her second mistake. It's one thing to get mad over my mistake. It's another to accuse me of your own. Before I can even get a word out, Siren stops me. Siren, I'm the manager here. What seems to be the problem? Karen gets a triumphant smirk on her face. The rude employee here refused to take my order, and when I asked politely, he yelled at me and hit me. Then your other employee defended him while also calling me names. She lifted her sleeve, revealing a bruise on her upper arm, obviously from a previous injury or something, because I haven't touched her at all. Siren looked at me with concern. T, you did this? I can't believe you. My mouth dropped. Me. Dude, you know I wouldn't. But he lifted his hand, stopping me. Siren, I need you to come with me. We need to discuss your status as an employee. Mitsu, don't leave either. Make her order, then come back too. He turns to look at Karen. I'm sorry, but after your order is made, could I ask you to wait so I can compensate you for your awful visit? Karen has the smuggest look on her face. Of course. I'm happy management here is at least competent. Siren leads me back into the manager office. He closes the door, then turns to me with a look of exasperation. Siren, all right, what happened? Immediately, I realized he was on my side and he was using his legendary theater skills to calm the lady down. I explain the situation and he gets super upset. Not only has this lady berated a customer, but also his employee. which just so happens to be his girlfriend. He begins to walk out, but I stop him. Me, call the cops. He looks at me, a questioning look on his face. I tell him my plan and immediately walk out of the room with his approval. I walk back out and see Mitsu shaking, either out of anger or anxiety, I don't know, while the lady is berating her. I walk to her and whisper something. She nods and walks back to the office. The Karen eyes me with triumph and I glare at her. I check the screen to confirm something. Yep, I've got my evidence. I sit and wait behind the counter. Entitled woman makes a couple remarks, berating me and trying to antagonize me, but I ignore her. Eventually, the police arrive. Siren walks out, with Mitsu behind him. Karen's eyes widen in excitement as she realizes that her complaint is getting me in even more trouble than she originally anticipated. Siren walks over to the officers, asks them to come with him to the back of the manager room, and tells the rest of us to wait in the front. Mitsu and I sit on the opposite side of the store to the lady. I check with Mitsu. She's fine, just a bit angry now. Karen can barely contain her excitement of seeing how she got 2 delinquents fired and 1 arrested. A while passes and the cops come out with Siren. They ask for our sides of the events. Entitled woman begins first, painting herself as the victim while accusing me of harassing her and assault. The cops come and ask our side of the story. Of course, we tell it together because we are clearly on the same side. The cops think for a minute, then turn around. Cop 1. Ma'am, I'm placing you under arrest. She stands up, flabbergasted. I'm sorry? What? She points at me. He's the one who attacked me. Look at this bruise. She rolls up her sleeve again, exposing the bruise. The second officer, with an exasperated look on his face. Cop 2. Ma'am, you do realize there are security cameras in this building, right? Her face goes white as she realizes her mistake. Siren, Mitsu, and I share a triumphant smile. We all knew about the cameras, of course. They clearly recorded her yelling at us, the lack of me attacking her, and her taking my drink as well as spitting on me. Siren had shown them the footage when he called the cops back, at my request. When she protested that she never assaulted me, I told her it's assault when you intentionally spit a drink on someone. She protested, saying she thought it was her coffee. Siren then shows the officer that the lady never finished her order, as Mitsu never entered. The cops arrested her and asked if I wanted to press charges. After the last time, a lot of people have told me I should have pressed charges, so I did. She was charged with harassment, assault, theft, and a couple things like disturbing the peace, etc. She was escorted off the property screeching at us. We're awaiting the hearing, but I won't be posting about it. She likely won't make a scene, considering she seemed to recognize it was a losing battle. I texted my manager later. She asked me for a description of the lady. She then told me that she would make sure that she never sets foot in my workplace either, as that could end up messy for the restaurant. She asked me that next time to act a bit more professionally, as that does reflect on the restaurant. However, she did agree that I did the right thing and asked if I got my tea. I said yes, and she asked how was it. I said it was great. It's my personal favorite, green tea with mint and a pinch of justice. Speaking of tea, what's your favorite kind of tea of all time? Please let us know. Spilled tea is my favorite. Yes. Am I the jerk for refusing to accept my daughter's relationship with her married older boss? I have a daughter, Lucy, and she's 23. Lucy graduated from university last year and started working at a company. It wasn't the job related to her degree, but she wanted some full-time work experience before she seriously looked for a job relevant to her degree. She settled in really well, was making good money, and seemed happy. She even started paying me rent, entirely her choice, because she said she wanted to pay me back for the 4 years I supported her through university. Her mom died when she was young, so I've been a single dad to her and her brother, Josh, 22, most of their lives. Any money I got went into providing them with a house or with education, and I'm lucky that I managed to pay off the house with my wife's life insurance and that I used a lot towards their education, so they didn't have debt. Anyway, on to the story. My son came around for a family dinner as he lives 2 hours away a little while ago. He asked how we were and what we were up to, and Lucy stunned us by revealing she was dating someone. I was delighted and asked general questions, but she was really vague, only really saying he worked in a decent company and was slightly older. I know what a new relationship is like, so I didn't push my questioning further. So a couple of weeks passed with no issues until one day all heck breaks loose. Lucy comes home from work one day saying her boss wife has been harassing her. She claimed to have done nothing wrong, and obviously I initially believed her since she's my kid. I spent a few hours gently asking her what happened, and her story kept changing, so I got suspicious. I asked her what the truth was, and why would her boss wife randomly start targeting her, and Lucy revealed it's because she was caught hooking up at his place. She then revealed she wasn't just dating him, but they'd been having an affair for months. Her 41-year-old boss. She told me she loved him, and that he was leaving his wife for her, someone young enough to be his daughter. The time afterwards consisted of my daughter being called all names under the sun by the wife, and she even introduced me to her boyfriend. I was not impressed and told him she is too young for him, and the fact he's her boss is creepy. They both showed no signs of giving up their jobs, and I even said I don't accept them dating as it's wrong, creepy, and that the poor wife is the innocent victim in all of this. Lucy tried to get Josh on her side, and he's keeping clear of all of it. Lucy is now accusing me of being a horrible dad and a jerk, as I'm not, quote, supporting her and the man she loves. She has since moved out and in with this guy, as she said she doesn't want to be around my toxicity. I told her that I'm uncomfortable with it because he's 18 years older than her and only a couple of years younger than me. I'm 48. He is her boss and he was married. She has accused me of also trying to destroy her happiness, and I'm at a loss of what to do. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk, or does he have every right to be concerned about this relationship? Please let us know. I want to know how much her boss makes. That would be the determining factor for me. Wounded veteran couldn't pay for his meal. Wanted to take a few minutes to share this story after so long of just having a really stressful time at work and even worse time at home. We've got a veteran who comes in on the reg. Let's say his name is Hank. Hank lost a leg and a hand in Iraq. People who assume the missing limbs are from war or recognize him from the neighborhood will often anonymously pick up his tab when he's in here, but he never feels like it's deserved, so he tries to lie low. He always wears long pants that cover his prosthetic leg and doesn't usually wear anything that denotes his veteran status. Besides, I think, like one bumper sticker on his car about supporting the troops. He doesn't like attention and is clear that he doesn't feel special treatment is deserved. Whenever someone comes over to him to try to pay for his meal, he refuses, and whenever they do it anonymously without his knowledge, he always takes the money he had set aside for his meal and puts it towards another random table's tab. So obviously, we shut down due to what's going on. We reopened when our state did, but after just a week of indoor dining, the owner decided that even if it was technically allowed, it probably shouldn't be, and we went back to delivery and takeout only. Thankfully, we've been doing really good business since we opened, even with takeout. I don't know the specifics of Hank's situation, but I think he lost his job sometime during the shutdown, because before all of this, we'd see him at least once a month, but this week was the first time we had seen him since we reopened. To make matters worse, he would easily put away 6 tacos or a whole chicken plus sides and plenty of beer whenever he came in here, but this time he just ordered 1 small burrito and a water. He didn't mention the different order though, just talked about how excited he'd been to come through here again, and how he'd been craving our food and been looking forward to this all week. We put his order in right away, and I made sure to write on the ticket to go extra light on rice and heavy on meat. Meanwhile, we go to get him paid up, and his card was declined. I started to tell him, but he could see it himself on the screen and went, crap. Shame and panic were washing over his face as I tried running it again, tried wiping it off, and he gave me a different card that didn't work either. Meanwhile, it was height of the lunch rush and the line was getting longer, so people were peering over to see what was taking so long. Finally, I think he started to cancel the order because he was saying, hey, you know what? Did you actually make the thing yet? But then the bag came out with his name unmistakably on it. So he started digging around in his pockets for cash and he came up with $5.25. The meal was $7. $5.25 was fine, I told him. Don't worry, you'll get us next time. Knowing how embarrassed he got when people tried to cover him for a good reason, veteran. So not wanting to pile on by being forward that I was covering him for a not so great reason, hard times. But he wasn't entertaining the idea of taking the food without paying for it in full, and finally, without even making eye contact with us, said, No, it's okay. I'm just gonna, go to my place and go get some more cash. But I knew that look on his face and that tone in his voice. There was no more to go get. It's a look and a tone I've used myself and seen from others more times than I wish I had. I wanted to insist he take the food, but I wasn't sure which was worse, to force the food on him and risk damaging his dignity, or to let him save face, but go without the lunch he'd been looking forward to. Before I could decide, the girl behind him, who'd been texting for most of our transaction, and not really paying attention to any of her surroundings, had just begun to tune in, I think realizing she had been standing there for a bit and trying to figure out why. So she caught that last bit about him going home to get the rest and asked, "Hey, what's the difference on what he owes?" I motioned to the cash already on the counter. $2. She went in her purse and handed it right to me. Hank started to try and hand it back to her, telling her it wasn't necessary, but she cut him off, saying, "Pff, no, it's $2. We've all been there. Enjoy your lunch." As he finally acquiesced and went to put her money back on the counter, she noticed his prosthetic hand. She did a double take, then said, "Actually, no. You know what? Let me get the whole thing actually. Give him his money back," and went in her purse and counted out the full charge, even though she had to dig for coins to get the whole $7. He insisted, "You really don't have to do that. I can't let you do that. You still need to get your own lunch." And she replied, "Listen, I hope I'm not being presumptuous here, but I'm guessing you're a veteran." He nodded. "Yeah, that's what I thought," she said, gesturing towards his hand. Then she took a minute, I think contemplating over whether or not she wanted to say this next bit, before continuing. "So, I served 2 tours in Afghanistan. There's a guy walking around on false legs out there who's the reason I'm walking around at all. So please allow me to do this, and don't think twice about it. I'd tell you to just get anything you want off the menu if times weren't tight for me too right now." It's at this point that an older guy in a bow tie, who looked kind of like Louis Farrakhan without the glasses, came from a few paces further back in the crowd and announced, "I couldn't help but overhear. Put both of their tabs on me. Actually, have they ordered yet?" I shook my head no, explaining, "He has, she hasn't." So he said, "Then get her anything she wants, and then get her some more." What am I saying? Who cares if he already ordered? Tell him to order something else too. Then he turned to face them. "Thank you both for your service." Hank was getting pretty emotional at this point, but even still, they both started to vigorously protest to the man that he really didn't need to do anything for them because it was their job they signed up for. The bow tie guy wouldn't hear it. He must have had a story himself because he got red in the face and was blinking back tears, but stayed silent. Just left his credit card with me and returned to his place in line. That's when another guy, closer to the front, stepped up to the register and handed me a card as well. "Yeah, I'm gonna split that tab. So really guys, go wild. You're American heroes." They both emphatically told him no, they are not heroes, but this guy cut them off too, saying, "Oh please, I get overwhelmed playing Call of Duty. You're heroes, and I'm glad to thank you for it." So they started ordering, and the girl knew just what she wanted. Hank asked how much our steak and rice platter special would cost. The older bow tie dude in back called up, "Which one just said that? Was it the guy? Don't tell him any prices. He's not paying, so it's not his business." Then came further up so he wouldn't have to shout and said, "Son, no one can put a price on your sacrifice." Call of Duty guy splitting in with him chimed in, "The meat we're giving you is a lot less valuable than the meat you gave for us." His friend elbowed him to shut up, horrified, but it got a belly laugh out of Hank. It's worth reiterating that throughout all this, no one even noticed he had not only lost a hand, but also a leg. His pants obscure it, and he's got too much honor to bring it up. So he and the lady were both loaded with food. By now, the kitchen was in on what was happening, so made sure to weigh them down with all kinds of other stuff they didn't order. Our management is very pro-military and pro-first responder, so there wouldn't be any issue. Another woman was so moved by watching this whole interaction that she anonymously paid for both Old Man Bowtie and Call of Duty's meal. Bowtie managed to figure out who she was and tried to return the money, saying he really did not need any money, so didn't feel right accepting it. The person who paid said she had 2 brothers who had fought and would want to buy a meal for anyone who would go out of their way to buy them a meal. It was just a domino effect of paying it forward, and it was one of the best things I've ever seen at the restaurant before, especially since, in the wake of everything going on right now, the only thing that's otherwise come from the takeout line is lots of petty arguments about masks and shooing people away who try and sit down to eat inside. The chain came around full circle. Our owner was so disturbed by the idea that 2 veterans had struggled to pay for their meals here in one day, we're considered one of the more reasonably priced places in town, that he instituted a military gets the special free day of the week. Even though we've been absolutely hemorrhaging money since everything started, and he's practically been keeping the doors open on a week-to-week basis. Hank told all of his friends about his experience here and the new special, and made sure to tell everyone in groups he goes to for veterans and wounded warriors. Now we have a ton of new customers, because more often than not, while they do come in for the free special, they buy drinks and come with family or friends. We've only been running it for a little while, but so far it's been great for business. So regardless of what else happens, That'll keep me smiling for a good long time. Karen, what's wrong?
That story was too wholesome.
I can't stand it. I'm waiting for the call that officially ends my banquet career. Since 2017, I have worked in a major casino as a banquet server. It was terrifying at first. It was so fancy. I went from selling ice cream and coffee to setting a ballroom full of 50 10-top tables with like 8 pieces of silverware. There was so much to remember, and I honestly didn't know if I was going to make it. We did all sorts of events. Car shows, Basketball Hall of Fame, Make-A-Wish, American Cancer Society, baseball auctions, Miss America, epic Christmas parties. It was mostly just corporate events, but even the most simple ones, like banquets for nurses and teachers, were fun. It was every type of food service you could possibly imagine. Hand-passed appetizers, plated meals, family-style meals, and exquisite buffets like you've never seen. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and everything in between. Even the most basic meals were incredible. You never knew what your job was going to be, or who you were going to work with when you walked in. And that was the scariest part to me. One day you'd be on the soup station. The next day you'd be working with a partner to serve a 6-table section and walking across a giant ballroom with a tray of 10 piping hot dinners while trying to remember who had the gluten allergy. Or you could be scooping gelato, or building buffets to perfection, or passing around trays with bacon-wrapped scallops, or clearing while 500 people have their cocktail hour. Once you got used to something, they'd throw you into something totally new. It took me about a year and a half, plus a lot of anxiety attacks and considerations of quitting, but I eventually got the hang of it. It was an on-call job, so sometimes I'd work 40 hours and then not have any work again for 2 weeks. That's why it took so long to learn everything. And there were 75 other people in the department, so sometimes it was scary to find out that you'd be working with the OG server, who had been there for 15 years and will chew you out if you mess anything up. Yet sometimes you would be the one to have to explain to someone new why all the coffee mug handles absolutely had to be facing the same way and still correcting them anyways. It was hardcore teamwork. There were so many ups and downs, but it was a fantastic gig. We were paid extremely fairly. It never mattered what my job was. It could have been the hardest or the most boring task. I'd do it gleefully because I knew I'd be making a good paycheck regardless. Oh, and did I mention that 75% of the time we got to eat the leftovers? Yeah, they'd have giant displays of shrimp over ice sculptures. And while it was disheartening how much food got wasted, or sent to pig farms as they told us, it was the best thing to ever happen to me. Now that I think about it, did I really love this job? Or was it just the endless shrimp? Hard to say. The physical gains were powerful. Lifting a 60-pound tray on one shoulder while walking across a huge ballroom doesn't sound fun, but wow, was I fit. I would easily walk 10 miles during a shift. It was painful a lot of the time, but it felt so good to be active. The mental gains were astronomical as well. I made it up the seniority list. Every year, I was making a little bit more money. Returning to events I had done in the past year was super exciting because being able to look back on where I was as a shy and sickeningly anxious newbie, now to someone who was helping all the newbies feel as comfortable as I wish more people had done for me. It was truly a unique and wonderful feeling. It felt like where I was meant to be. I originally wanted to move out of state, but this job kept me close. I had full intentions of staying for as long as I possibly could. I didn't get enough hours and had to work other jobs the whole time, but at the rate I was moving up, it could have been my only job in a year or two. I could have lived an extremely comfortable life, only working 4 days a week at a job that I absolutely loved. They had just built an $80 million convention center on top of the 5,300 people capacity ballroom, which meant there were way more work days on the horizon. The last time I worked was in the beginning of March. It was a summit for a large real estate company. Over 1,200 people from all over the country, and let's be honest, probably a hotspot before we knew it. Bougie people. I stood in one place with a tray of wine for hours and then immediately had to serve a 7-table section with a new guy who, while enthusiastic and willing to listen to me, had no idea what he was doing. It was the only event that I had cried at in the past 2 years I had done it. I almost cried at this one too, because it just got so crazy, but I didn't. And to me, that was progress. But now, this new issue is here to stay. Tightly packing 10 people to a table with 50 tables and 30 servers weaving in and out of the aisles, touching plates with food, grabbing glasses to fill wine or water, trusting thousands of people to serve themselves on a buffet, none of those things are safe anymore. None of it. Most of the events were not local, they were national, so you'd have people from everywhere. They kept telling us that although all of the spring and summer events were canceled, that come September, we'd all have work again. But we all know that was never going to happen. Now the casino I work for has finally come to the hardest and most heartbreaking decision. It's time to lay everybody off. Things are never going to be the same again. No more banquets, no more cocktail hours, no more weaving through 800 people to get dirty plates out of the room, all while listening to rich people's conversations and judging their expensive outfits. No more bonding with my coworkers in the back while the group is having a speaking presentation. No more late nights and cranky mornings. No more wine service. No more uppity contacts. No more pushing 6 buffet tables through a busy casino to get to the other side of the property. No more 5-table buffet desserts. No more shucking oysters and sliding them down an ice luge into a martini glass. No more silverware rolling quotas in the thousands. No more sweating while I constantly refilled a buffet. No more waiting for the last person to leave so we could all go home. No more linen. No more BEOs. No more polishing wine glasses. No more endless shrimp. It's all over. There are so many people out of work now. Cooks, dishwashers, EVS, audio and visual, housemen, bartenders, barbacks, and of course us servers and our captains and shift leaders. Do you know how many people it really takes to put up these events? It's a lot. I knew this was coming, but I didn't want to think about it yet. Now I'm waiting for the phone call, and I know that one day I'll find my place again, but I just feel so lost now. I wish I could say I've spent the last 6 months brainstorming my new career path, but I've really just been sad. So, according to my mother, if I don't want to go on a last-minute holiday, I shouldn't play games in that time either. Ever since the summer holidays started, I've tried to keep myself physically and mentally fit. I'm 15, male by the way. In terms of physical, I did okay. I lost a bit of weight and spent hours on reflexes when playing games on a sim wheel. In terms of mentally though, not so much. My mother would make fun of me on how I was apparently fat and how I do nothing all day and just play games. A slight drought when closing the door. It's a slam according to her. I'm quite strong physically, but weak mentally. I was quite frankly a lot happier in school than out, even though I was not allowed to play games during the weekdays. That's for another story. My dad is okay. He doesn't care and isn't as annoying as my so-called mother. Story. This literally happened a few minutes ago. So I was watching a film in the living room when my mother called me and my brother in to talk with us, entitled Mom. So, we weren't able to go anywhere during the holidays, so I was hoping on going to some caravans for 4 days in a week. A week from now, I think, would be the final week until I go back to school. That means we would go from Monday through Thursday on caravans, only leaving me and my brother Friday to Sunday to prepare. Entitled Mom to brother. When does your college start? If it starts before this date, then we're not going. So do you want to go or not? The next bit is stupid. Me. No. That leaves us barely enough time to prepare for school. Brother. And college. It's my second year, yes, but I still need to get a lot together. Entitled Mom targeting me. Well, if you don't want to go, then for a week, you won't have any games to play. Now, in her eyes, all I think about is games. Yes, that might be true, but I'm hoping to become a professional sim racer, which if you don't know, has games, is extremely fun, and you can compete for money if you'd like. We didn't take that well. Me and brother. What? You heard me. If we're not going, then neither of you will be playing games. I walk away at that point saying, you did ask if we wanted to go. I said no, and look who's getting mad because we said our opinion. I closed the door on her yelling and didn't want to see her for the rest of the day. I might be a jerk in this situation, but I'm an introvert, and we've already been to many places when we were supposed to be in quarantine. Anyways, either way, if we went or not, I still wouldn't be able to play. So in my eyes, this whole thing was her idea to get us away from gaming. Watch this video next, you will love it. Join as a channel member today and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And to have us make any kind of video you'd like us to, come visit us on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.